wanted to share a story, so I'm going to let everybody know so you guys can all. 1 second. Jim wanted to share a story, so so if you guys want to, wherever you're comfortable, there's a microphone, so.
All right, I'm gonna sit down here with the fan.
I am,
Welcome, everybody. My name is Jim Craig, and I was a friend of Terry's since actually junior high school, if you will. So I'm here actually representing Ellen. Ellen attempted to have this celebration of Terry's life about a month ago and came down with appendicitis, had surgery, and rescheduled it for this weekend. So she flew in Thursday afternoon, if you're not aware of this story, and was staying in a bed and breakfast here at off of Willendale Road. And it was dark. She's going back out to the car. She tripped and fell, fractured her femur, fractured her kneecap, and her wrist. And she's currently right over here at Ruby Hospital. And my wife and I just visited her before we came over here. She's doing pretty well, if you can imagine, as best as you can do under those circumstances. So he called yesterday and asked if I would MC, if you will, this event. So very happy to do that because Terry and I were really good friends for many, many years. 50, 60 years, whatever it's been now. First, I'd like to read what Ellen was going to present. She sent this via email to me. This is Ellen's words. Well, Terry, here we are, 120 years later, or so it seems. We met at the Armory behind the Spruce Street Church. Those of you from Morgan County know about that. I danced with a couple other guys all evening, and then you walked in at 11 p.m. And we danced to the last slow song, The House of the Rising Sun, by the Animals, and everything beyond that is history. You will always be my best friend. We were married in 1968, and our life began. So many happy memories and fun times. We had countless incredible vehicles, as you can see in these videos, and several beautiful dogs and cats to complement our life. We experienced many ups and downs, as all marriages will do. Then we divorced in 1991. We've remained close friends throughout those many years. Losing you has been a life-altering experience for me. You shared my life in so many ways. I never got to tell you that. You shaped my life in so many ways. I never got to tell you that. You were my first love. Please know how much I've always loved you and how much I miss you every day. I can always pick up the phone and have a great conversation about anything. I wanted to do this celebration of your life for your friends and family, as we all love you so much. Please be at peace and without pain. Love you always, Ellie. As I said, Ellen is currently over at Ruby. She's probably going to be unable to walk for about 6 weeks. And when we left her, she's trying to figure out how she's going to get to a plane and get back to Florida, where she's currently residing. And I'm not sure how she's going to do that, but she's faring pretty well. I thought she looked pretty good for somebody under those circumstances. Terry and I Terry lived in what's called Greenmont in Bordertown, and it was about 6 blocks about 6 blocks in the other direction. And that's where I first met Terry, was when the pool opened sometime around 1962, 63, somewhere in that range. Every day, I would be at Morella Pool from the time it opened at noon until it closed at 5. Tired, worn out, and had to walk back up the hill. Unlike Terry, he was more level to his house. At the end of the day, meet up in Sunburn, and we had a great time there. He was always full of fun, always showing off for the girls. He was always on the high dive board, or low dive board, doing always famous flips and so forth. While I was there with my friends and his friends too, we were checking out the babes at the swimming pool. Well, then we became even better friends when at high school, and we often went out on weekends together. I won't tell you all the stories about that because my wife's here, so we'll leave that for another time. But I remember I bought a Honda. You remember back in the day when you meet the nicest people on a Honda, that was their theme. And so I bought a Honda. It was a 150, which is about that tall now when you look at all motorcycles. And he bought a Honda. It was a 125 or 150. So we each had those motorbikes. Terry would ride his all around South Park. I believe, I remember when his father wouldn't let him take it across the bridge into town. So he had this boundary that he could only ride it in. But he rode the heck out of that thing all over South Park, and I'm sure he rode it to Ellen's house quite often. Later, he and Ellen and Carol and I would ride our bikes off into the country on weekends, take tours to the farmhouses and whatnot. And then in college, well, at the time we were entering college, we both got drafted. And we went for our physicals, and I failed the physical because I had high blood pressure. And so that kept me out of the service. But Terry then enlisted. And served 4 years in the military. I remember when he was coming, after he was getting out of service, he was a carb nut too. His friends and family don't know. And so I remember talking to him multiple times about this car that I saw in magazines that was coming out. And it was a 280Z Datsun. It was a yellow. It's not the same car you see in these pictures. And I said, you've got to have this. So he had accumulated either through savings or perhaps they gave him some sort of a bonus for having spent time in the military when he got out. So he spent every dime he had and bought that 280Z yellow Datsun. And it was a great car that he loved. He and Ellen had wonderful cars all through their life. That was kind of a hobby with them. Anyway, we used to hang out at on Friday evenings and Saturday evenings on Coburn Avenue over in South Park with other friends of ours. There was a little confectionery there on the corner. And so we would be there. That's where we'd meet before we go out, looking for the babes in different parts of town. And a guy named Tim Scorsetti's father, for those of you who know the Scorsettis, owned this little convenience store that was actually built onto the porch of this house, big house. And so we would go in there, and they had all the usual things, cigarettes and deodorant, shampoo and all of that, ice cream bars. So we would go over there, and before we go out on dates, we'd use their deodorant, their mouthwash, their hairspray, and before we go out. And Tim was a friend of ours. He ran the store for his dad. He didn't care. And we played cards on top of the ice cream machine. Glass lids, you slide back and forth. We always played cards on there. And then we'd go out for the weekend, looking for the babes. Later on, he was always a big beach fan of the beach. As we were were I and my wife Carol. So Ellen and Carol and I, we just purchased a Volkswagen, 1967, I think, Volkswagen. Now keep in mind, Terry is 6'4" or 5. And actually, he would not have been able to get into the military had he been that tall when he came out of high school. But he wasn't. I was as tall as he was when we graduated from high school, our senior year. He shot up afterwards while he was in the military. Had he been that tall, they would not have accepted him. Anyway, we jammed into the, Ellen was not short either. My wife Carol is very short. So we jumped in the Volkswagen and we went to Rehoboth Beach. You know, Rehoboth Beach is now famous because Joe Biden has a mansion over there. And we spent 3 days, 2 nights, all the expenses for gasoline, food, whatnot. And we only had $60 between the 4 of us. That was a few years ago. You couldn't do that for buy gas now. Everybody got sunburned. And I remember riding back, and actually Ellen and Terry are in the back seat. Not because there was more room there, but because their backs were burnt so bad. They had their hands on top of the front seats, leaning over this way so their backs wouldn't touch the seats. We were all sunburned. We spent every dime we had, and I don't know how we got back. Because it was a Volkswagen, we got pretty good mileage on it. So we did that multiple times. And a couple of these pictures up here are actually, Terry took one of Ellen and Carol and I laying on the sand, but then there's one of him alone there. The Rehoboth Beach was, and all the way over when we stopped to get gas, or we stopped someplace to rest stop. He was always silly. You know, he was a young kid. He was a young kid when he died too. He always looked 10 years younger than everybody else. And he did it all the time. And when he was in high school, it probably should have been in junior high. That was actually a good thing. But he was a kid at heart. And when we drive up somewhere or a stoplight, he'd yell out the window, roll the window down and yell out. And with a funny accent of some sort, he'd say, "Is this the way to the beach?" He yelled at people. And of course, they're looking at us and we're stupid. Well, we were doing, high school stuff that kids do. And he always, so that was a kind of a thing we shared from there. Every time we saw each other, he or I, or both of us would say, "Is this the way to the beach?" And we'd point this way. But he was a great friend of mine. He will be missed. I appreciate your coming. If anybody has anything they'd like to contribute to the celebration of life, please come up. Yes, Albert.
See, we're all limping. Those were interesting stories, John. About the early years. Loved it. I didn't get a chance to meet Terry until, in my mid-20s. I met him through Ellen. We both worked together at the Dominion Post. And through parties with employees, I met Terry, and Terry became a very good friend. And like Jim said, man, I aged every year, but Terry didn't seem to. Always had that baby face. And Terry helped me buy my first 2 cars. He was like the Kelley Blue Book before the internet. He knew everything about cars. And he'd say, "No, you don't want that one. Look at this one over here. It's over here." So I relied on him for that decision making. Got to be good friends. It broke my heart when they both divorced. Rarely do you get to be friends with both people when they divorce, but fortunately, I was able to maintain that relationship. And later on, my wife and I, Jenna, invited Terry and his, at that time, girlfriend to he told me not to tell this, invited them to a sailboat cruise in the BVI. And it was the 4 of us and the captain and his wife, and beautiful setting. There were sharks and barracuda and all sorts of fish in the water, and we'd snorkel, and I found out Terry was a scuba diver, and our captain was a master scuba diver. And he knew of this shipwreck, and he said, Terry, let's go explore it. So we got the boat over close, and Terry and Alan, the captain, put on our gear and had to go to the bathroom, so I ran down below deck and went to the bathroom. As I was coming up, I heard them screaming and splashing in the water, and I thought, oh my God, shark. Ran up there, and Terry's out there bashing the water, and so is Alan, trying to get away from the back of the boat. And I said, shark? And he goes, no, Del, brown trout. So I learned bathroom etiquette on a small boat. But Terry's always been a great friend, and I'm going to miss it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, he certainly missed all those football games and all those athletic events and all the high school games we used to go to in Fairmont. All the times we stopped at a place called Mary Ann's on the Speedway in Fairmont after the games. All those Coven Avenue week, Friday nights and Saturday nights. People would come by there who were lost. They'd made the wrong turn, came across the South Park Bridge, and they would stop and ask us for directions, and we'd always give them the wrong directions. And send them up into South Park, up the top of the hill. That was a big ha-ha for us. Skateboarding, Terry used to have a skateboard before. People didn't know what skateboards were at the time. And he rode them on Coven Avenue. All of us would try that, bust our heinies in the concrete. Those were back in the 60s, even 70s. Now skateboarding is a common thing, but it wasn't then when he had one. We had great times. I remember once also, he and Ellen and Carolyn and I decided we were going to go down to Morrill Pool around midnight and go swimming. So we go down there and we checked it out earlier. This is, I don't know if it was college or not, but we figured out that if we went around by the concession stand, there was a chain link fence there, and you could kind of shimmy up the hole next to the building, get up on the roof, walk to the other side of the roof, and then you could drop down on the bank, which was a little sloped. So we all get ready to do that, and this police car came by. I mean, I don't know how often the police cars come by the road, but we were all set. We were thinking we're doing a big thing, and we were excited, and we were, oh, this is going to be great. And then the police car comes by, and we all climbed the fence back up as quick as we could and dropped on the other side of that hill. But we always had those kinds of shenanigans going on. And I guess what I was always about Terry was, in addition to looking younger than everybody else, he still acted younger than everybody else. In his mind, he was still like one kid. And that's what made him. Fun to be around.
The police got after my husband and I and Terry Allen one night because y'all in Westover was hot August night. We walked over to, it was Carl Williams' funeral home at the time, and got in the pond. And you were not allowed to get in the pond because it was electrified. So I don't know if they just happened to catch us, but I mean, they didn't do this in jail or anything. Yeah, we do things like that, just something to do. And Terry and I took one weekend, we went to a snow cabin that someone had owned. Go ahead, we have a snowmobile and everything. Well, Terry and I spent The whole day out freezing to death on a snowmobile. Ellen and my husband stayed in the cabin and drank wine. So who's the smart one there?
Yes.
So we just did fun things like that too.
It was fun. Anybody else? Well, thank you for coming. And thank you for sharing your thoughts about my friend. Ellen will get a copy of the proceedings here since she's unable to come. And we appreciate you coming. Thank you. Safe travels.
And folks, stay and visit as long as you like. Of course, food and drinks out in the hallway and over here. So, yeah, stay and visit with each other and continue to celebrate. Thank you.
You got that for sharing. You'll see me doing the jig next time. Well done.
Thank you.